Hello everyone, it's Duckfairy07. Today I'm playing Zoo Rings Brew, and I've been having very much success lately playing mid-range decks that can fit the One Ring well and have very clear game plan and good win conditions. Territorial Kavu and Scion of Draco are great, cheap creatures that are very hard to deal with when you can jam them multiple of these threats each turn, and having the One Ring enables that. So I would say this is kind of similar to my Zoo Beans list that I really enjoyed and liked in the Beans era, but now you kind of jam these powerful threats early, like Ragavan, Kavu, Scion of Draco, and Delighted Halfling, which is also cool in this deck because it lets you cast the uncounterable Ragavan, Teferi, Sheoldred, One Ring, helps you cast Scion and Binding, and it is really effective in ramping you to these cards, and having them turn earlier can be like really significant, like turn 2 Teferi against Cascade decks, turn 3 Ring, Sheoldred, whatever, that all of these plays can be very powerful. Okay, so that is it. So we had to make room to make this list a bit more mid-rangey. So we got Teferis, we got Sheoldreds, the One Rings, and of course a Delighted Halfling to help me ramp into these new cards that fit well in this mid-range-ish zoo style list. Okay, so on the sideboard we got 2 more 1-mana counters that are great against Cascade decks. We got Curse Totem for the Yawgmoth, we got some Blood Moon Hate, Plains, Boseiju, Tear Asunder on the sideboard. Temporary Lockdown, the only don't have that much 1 and 2 mana creatures like in regular Zoo, and you're probably boarding some out when bringing in the Lockdown. So Lockdown is a card very effective against Yawgmoth, against Scales, against Hammer Time. So if you jam this card against those decks, you mostly win in like 90% of situations. Okay, so other than that, some Rest in Peace and Get Lost. I've been liking this card lately in some decks that really miss kind of versatile removal in the main, and Get Lost is a decent option on the sideboard. I've been liking it more and more lately. I think it's a good fit for some of these brews I had lately on my channel. Okay, so that is it, and I had a very fun and good performing league with this build. We are going to go through it and see how the deck performed. Okay, so mulliganed to 5 in this game 1, but kept a decent 5. Turn 1 Ragavan, turn 2 Kavu. When playing first, that is like really nice 5 and hard to beat. Okay, so opponent unfortunately has Totsis here. Taking my Kavu definitely hurts. At least I am doing... I connected with Ragavan, get there, consider, put a Scion on bottom, draw into Sheoldred. So now I really need a land, but I guess Binding will have to do. Okay, so opponent, I was able to take care of the Bowmasters, which was important, and now I was hoping again for the land here. I really wanted to try to resolve the One Ring while opponent is tapped, get the protection, start drawing, and now I'm in a pretty sweet position. Next turn I have Teferi, I have potential of Sheoldred, and yeah, opponent goes for early Murktide. That's pretty good for them. Right now Murktide is a 7/7. If Murktide hits me once, I am in a problem. And yeah, here opponent goes Bowmasters in response to me tapping the ring. So this worked out great for me because I'm able to kill the Bowmaster, bounce the Murktide. Of course they have the Orc army here killing my Teferi, but that is totally fine. I played the Halfling, I played the Scion. hold the One Ring and hold the Bolt if they have another Bowmaster. Get my second black source, and I also have Halfling. You can see how important Halfling is in a situation like this. Okay, opponent goes for the Tidebinder. So they counter my ring ability. I try to kill the Tidebinder to let me use the ring, but opponent has a counter there. But this is fine because I was able to resolve the Sheoldred, and I'm not taking damage from the One Ring since they countered with Tidebinder. So it's perfectly fine situation for me. Opponent replays their Murktide, has a fetch and only one card in their hand at this point. Since I drawed into the Stubborn Denial, I was totally comfortable with this situation at the moment. And Stubborn Denial here counters the Dismember. Sheoldred is very hard for them to deal with. And now I have options. So I draw into another Scion of Draco and I decided to just go for the attacks with both. They have to block kind of badly here. So now I'm able to jam the Scion of Draco, use the One Ring again, and that is game over. Opponent can get out of this, so that is the game. Let's check out the game 2. Okay, so if you have Halfling, you can, and Scion of Draco, you can go for the Halfling. If you have Halfling resolved, then you will be able to get to play it on turn 2. I didn't want to risk anything here, and I was hoping to just jam the Scion on turn 2. Scion is kind of hard for them to deal with. They only have a Sheoldred Edict to kill it. And maybe Dismember, not sure. Okay, so here opponent dealt with all of my threats, and now they play the Bowmaster, and I have the One Ring next turn. I have the One Ring next turn, but they draw into the Bowmasters. Okay, so they're attacking me with the Bowmaster, and I have the ring plus the Sheoldred, which is pretty good and strong. So I think in a situation like this, it's better to go for the One Ring first. But unfortunately, opponent has a counterspell, only one card left for them, and if it's not the land, then if it's not the counterspell, I get to resolve the Sheoldred. It's pretty good for me, but unfortunately last card in their head is counterspell actually, so opponent digs a lot here. Consider into Preordain. This damage from the Bowmaster, it's getting more and more dangerous, so I try to go for the Ragavan dash. If they have another Bowmaster here, it's pretty hard for me, but instead they only have Bitter Triumph, so they have to pay 3 to kill my Ragavan. I play another one here. Now I'm looking to block. If I don't block, it's a 2-turn clock here, so I rather try to kill the Bowmaster, trade with Bowmaster with Ragavan if I can, and I was able to play the One Ring here. Try to get protection, but unfortunately opponent has a Tidebinder to counter my ring protection. This means they have lethal next turn with the Tidebinder. If they didn't have Tidebinder, I would draw into the Sheoldred from the top and probably just completely stabilize on my next turn and win. But opponent got me here with Tidebinder, so that was the game. Let's check out the game 3. And let's also check out my sideboarding plan for this matchup. Lightning Bolts out may seem a bit weird. Lightning Bolt deals with Bowmaster and Tidebinder. I should have probably left 2 bolts in and board out 2 Ragavans. I think I like that the most. I'm not sure why I boarded out all 4 bolts. I usually board out 2 bolts, 2 Ragavans. That seems the best for me. Okay, so here Ragavan turn 1, turn 2 Teferi, click up, and then I was able to bounce the Dead Shadow, connect with Ragavan, get to play whatever I like. I was able to jam the One Ring, but I actually decided to play the Scion of Draco instead. Opponent has removal and the really large shadow there. So I get protection, draw a card, and now I have to decide if I want to jump with Ragavan. But opponent top decks into the Bowmaster, which is pretty cool for them. And now I'm in a pretty tricky situation, and it is kind of I think it's interesting to see how I managed to win this one. So I draw into the Bowmasters, getting them counters on the Orc army. I make a blocker. So it may seem like a difficult position here, but I had a clear plan. And my opponent, I knew my opponent has a Stubborn Denial in their hand. So I knew the one card they have is a Stubborn Denial, but I decided to leave the Scion on the field anyway, because it was my win condition, and 2 attacks from the Scion gets my opponent dead, so it felt like more important than having uncounterable One Ring. And I had few draws with the One Ring there, and one of these were a Stubborn Denial, which was definitely the card I needed here to play around their Stubborn Denial. So I get to resolve the One Ring. I can't use the One Ring, but that is totally fine because I get to attack with the Scion, and when I untap, I have a lethal attack with Scion protected with the Stubborn Denial in my hand, and that is enough for lethal, and I take this game and the match. So that's it. Let's check out match number 2. It may seem like a difficult position. It definitely was a difficult position, but I managed to sneak out the win there. Okay, so maybe I should have played the Steam Vents first here, then I will be able to like just Stubborn Denial the Preordain. Maybe that was a decent play. And yeah, now I play the Steam Vents, pass the turn. Opponent was playing blue-red based control deck. Nothing much in my hand right now, but I have the Stubborn Denials, a lot of interaction, a lot of removal, and of course the One Ring I was hoping to resolve. Okay, so I decide to go for the ring, hold the mana for the binding. I think again opponent was playing Jeskai ring list from my channel. That was recently on my channel. I decide to use one of my denials here, take their Snapcaster, connect with Ragavan, try to find something or just get the treasure token so I can try to jam the One Ring next turn. So as I said, opponent was playing my Jeskai ring list. I actually faced this deck 2 times. I faced this deck 2 times recently in leagues on the YouTube. I feel like the deck is working pretty good. I see it often online and really happy about it. Okay, so opponent is now on 1 card, but they have a huge Murktide and a Tidebinder. And they draw into the Lorien Revealed, getting them 3 more cards and killing my Ragavan, hitting me for 10 damage. That is a lot. Okay, so I was able to take their Murktide, play the Ragavan as a blocker for the Tidebinder. I have to look out for my life here, try to preserve life total. I try to draw a card and I thought I was going to lose this one, but opponent got flooded. And Delighted Halfling, again in this situation, let me cast the One Ring, uncounterable. This felt like really relevant so many times in last few leagues I played with Halfling. Okay, so finally opponent finds a good card, and they play the One Ring into Murktide, having the Minamo too. To draw more, I think they should have used the Minamo immediately. Now I got the draw from my ring, and I was able to use the binding in response to Minamo. Also put Sheoldred on the field, bounce the Murktide, and yeah, now I'm in a pretty good position, gaining 2 more life with Sheoldred, passing the turn, holding double Stubborn Denial, and yeah, so now when I have Denial to deal with their One Rings or whatever, I feel like very favored. But opponent has the Murktide, which is not a big deal for me at the moment. They are not dealing with the Sheoldred, which is the main thing for me. I gain 2 from Sheoldred on a turn and gain 6 more from the ring ability, and yeah, at this moment this is basically impossible task for the opponent. I was able to play the Scion, play the Ragavan, my Sheoldred gets a lifelink, and I'm still holding a blue mana for Stubborn Denial. This situation is now unbeatable for the opponent, so that is easy win here. Let's check out game 2. Let's also check out the sideboarding plan against Jeskai Ring Control. Okay, so trimming on Bolt, and yeah, so that's basically it. Just trimming on Bolt a bit. I think boarding in the Tear Sunder to deal with their One Ring, and that is like only card I really want in this situation. Okay, opponent here tries to counter my Halfling, and I go for the Stubborn Denial. Halfling feels like a really good and important card at the moment against a lot of decks. The uncounterable clause, there is just so much counterspell right now in the leagues. It feels like every deck is playing counterspells, and I was able to gem the Scion of Draco last turn, hold the Stubborn Denial, bit flooded definitely here. I didn't want to attack with the Halfling into Tidebinder, so I just go with Scion, holding the Stubborn Denial, hoping to draw some better cards. And again, Halfling lets me cast uncounterable Teferi here. This is just a very huge deal actually. Resolving Teferi in a situation like this against a control deck, that can really put me in a good position. And I take down the Teferi and get the Ragavan, and yeah, Ragavan is a good threat right now. They have to use card to deal with Teferi, so that's good news for me. And Halfling again, I'm convinced they had Counterspell in their hand right now, and there's just nothing else they could have. Pretty convinced they had Counterspell, and they were not able to counter my Ragavan dash because of the Halfling. So that worked out pretty good for me. Opponent digging, trying to find the relevant spells. Snapcaster would be like pretty sweet for them, but I guess they didn't find what they were looking for. So again, I continue just dashing Ragavan, uncounterable, and it seemed like, I'm not sure what exactly they had, but it seemed like a big problem for them. Ragavan was just connecting, and also hitting the Flame of Aenir from top of their deck was pretty sweet too, getting me 2 cards. Ragavan sometimes is just so terrifying. It steals the games, wins the games so easily. Okay, opponent goes for the Tidebinder. They probably should have played this before. It wasn't really good right now. So I bolt opponent, put them on 2. This means another Ragavan dash is lethal. And yeah, here I go for the binding, try to take their Murktide. But yeah, unfortunately opponent has a Tidebinder to get rid of my Leyline Binding, and now situation gets a bit complicated for me. They now have a big Murktide on the field and a blocker, another blocker, so they can probably, if they draw another removal, they can attack with Murktide and threaten me with lethal next turn. So opponent has Geist now too. I played Geist on the sideboard of this deck, so this means they probably boarded it in against me. That is probably like a good choice. Okay, so here opponent has another Murktide, good draws for the opponent. They make this Murktide 12-12, which means I have to block it. I have to block it, and now I'm depending on a top deck. And my only option is to go for the attack, try to draw into something like the One Ring or something like that. Didn't get it, and that is the game. I lose that one. So let's check out game 3. Okay, pretty good hand in game 3. When playing first, like Territorial Kavu with a double One Ring, this definitely seems problematic for opponents to deal with. Subtlety is fine, they're using 2 cards here, and I'll be glad to play the Territorial Kavu next turn, make them use removal or counter, whatever. This means that I'll have high chance trying to resolve the One Ring. I probably should have fetched immediately to play around Tidebinder, but my opponent, as I said, was forced to use removal there on Kavu. Kavu really hits hard, but this means I get to resolve the One Ring, and that is like a really big deal. Opponent probably should have bounced the ring there. Instead they take up the Teferi. This means I was able to just binding the Teferi, use the One Ring, play a bunch of cards there. Now they have their One Ring. But I already draw too much cards here, so I take their ring, play the Sheoldred, and bunch of good cards in hand, and they only have 2 right now, so really a bad position for opponent. As I said, ring gets you a bunch of cards you can play. I also played a bit risky here. I tried to do the lethal next turn, but I exposed myself to opponent maybe having a double bolt there to kill me, which was maybe unnecessary. Okay, so opponent plays the Tidebinder and the Flame of Feiner. I try to kill Scion plus Kavu. I find a Stubborn Denial with the One Ring, and this means I have lethal this same turn. So that is the match against Jeskai Ring, and we can check out match number 3. Okay, so match number 3, playing first. If I was playing a second, I think I'll probably keep it, but would maybe consider. I have a turn 2 Scion of Draco, turn 3 Teferi, turn 4 One Ring. That is a pretty good curve. there's no point in mulliganing this, especially since I'm playing first. I get to play Scion of Draco to try to block their Ragavan, and do that successfully. Opponent goes for the Grief Scam, takes the Teferi plus the One Ring, but also takes my second One Ring with Totsis. Pretty good hand for the opponent. If I was able to resolve one of the One Rings, that would for sure be easy win, but either way I had Kavu plus the Scion here. I decided to do draw discard. I was expecting Bowmasters, but I just didn't really care about the Bowmasters. It's not good. Bowmaster is no good at this point, and opponent probably thought they can kill my Territorial Kavu with the block here, but that was impossible. So that was a very bad block for the opponent, and they concede here. Even if they didn't block, it would be very hard for them to do anything, because I would have Ragavan first strike blocker with the Stubborn Denial backup, and that is easy game. To be honest, like Scam feels like a really good matchup for a list like this. Okay, so let's check plenty of removal to deal with the Bowmaster. Not much card draw except the One Ring. Okay, so here you can see that against a Scam I'm playing the value plan. So I'm getting rid of the Halfling. Halfling was really strong, powerful against all these decks I played before. They had counter spells, but here we are playing a value game, and I don't want to draw into 1 mana 1/2 guy that's nothing relevant. So I'm boarding that out. Also boarding 2 Ragavans, the thing I do very often when playing against Bowmaster. Getting in the Tira Sanders, the Bosages to fight the One Ring. And I get to take their Fable, bounce their token with the Teferi. Pretty good situation. All I need right now is another basic, and so I can jam the One Ring, and yeah, that's it. Didn't get the land, but I was able to tick up the Teferi, play the Kavu as a blocker here, and hold the Stubborn Denial, so not bad. Opponent attacks, sacrifices their Shaman token to play, probably play some 4 mana spell, and it is Sheoldred. And Sheoldred is really a card you need to deal with. And luckily I find the binding from the top, attack with Kavu, hold the Stubborn Denial, and I save Kavu from Fatal Push here, which was very important. Get Lost, here it is. That card too, I think it's pretty sweet for this matchup. It kills the Blood Moon, and it also kills their Scammed creature, kills whatever. So I think it's a cool card for this matchup, but for some other matchups too, like Hammer Time probably. They're playing it. You can kill Urza Saga with this, but you can also kill equipped creature. It seems like very versatile and nice to play. Also, another card I have on sideboard that I decided to board in. I believe post board, especially when my plan is to get rid of the Halflings and 2 Ragavans. This leaves me only with 2 Ragavans and 4 Kavus in my deck that can be target of the lockdown. And except for the Grief in their deck, Lockdown basically takes all other creatures in their deck, so the Bowmasters, the Doughties, the Ragavans, the Fable tokens. So I believe it can be really effective. And that's it. Ragavan, One Ring on the field, the Binding in hand to get rid of the Blood Moon, plenty of removal. This is impossible for the opponent to deal with, and very easy win against Scam. And that is win number 4. Let's check out win number 3. Let's check out match number 4, and we will watch the defeat in the end. Okay, so playing first, pretty sweet hand, especially if I succeed to connect with Ragavan. So this means like turn 3 Sheoldred. I have plenty of removal too, like Binding. so hard for opponent to deal with. Opponent starts with Grief without playing land. This says that opponent is probably just playing the Living End. Okay, so the Ragavan is definitely connecting. I'll be able to jam the Sheoldred on turn 3, and this means if opponent doesn't have the perfect hand, which includes like a turn 1 cycle, turn 2 cycle into turn 3 Living End, I get the chance to try to tempo them out with Sheoldred and Ragavan. Also, Sheoldred can be good against their cyclers. They're losing 1 life each time, and here unfortunately I played their Outburst. Yeah, I had luck to take their Outburst from the top. It would be very good card for them to top deck. They really needed that one, but I was able to connect with Ragavan again. Get mana here so I can play the Sheoldred or the One Ring, whatever. So I decide to go for the One Ring first. Unfortunately, they have the Force. So yeah, maybe it was better to go for the Sheoldred first, try to pressure them. Okay, here I attack with Ragavan again. Opponent obviously doesn't have the Cascade spell here. Even if they do, they're only getting Generous Scent and the Grief, which is not a big deal. I also have the Binding I can play in response. So now I shock in to play the Sheoldred. I have the Binding, so even if they go for Cascade spell, I can take their Generous Scent with the Binding, which only leaves them with the Grief on the field. So yeah, now a hard game for the opponent. Sheoldred draining them, doing a lot of damage. They can't really cycle to draw against Sheoldred on the field. So attacking with 6 here, I feel like there's no need to go for the Kavu in this position. I have almost like definite lethal here, even if they play hardcast some creature on their turn. Here opponent goes for the fetch, loses 2 more on their turn because of the Sheoldred, and don't draw the solution, so that is win in game 1. Let's check out the game 2. Okay, so 4 Stubborn Denials in the main, 2 Flusterstorms on the side. Aside from that, I also have Rest in Peace as a Graveyard Hate. Very effective against them. And I removed all the bindings, which is what I usually do. Get rid of the removal and try to disrupt them with the counters and chalices if I have them, or Teferi, whatever. So I have only one Stubborn Denial here, nothing else. But I was hoping for a top deck and just try to resolve the One Ring, for example, then try to outvalue them with the One Ring, draw something relevant like the Teferi. Okay, so jamming the Ragavan, holding the Stubborn Denial. It's pretty good position for me. Ragavan is definitely connecting here. Opponent is not really playing any removals. So I get to connect with Ragavan, which means I can play the Territorial Kavu, hold the Stubborn Denial, and since they only played a tapped land, this means that they probably don't have Cascade spell in hand. They go for the forest cycling and just playing the forest. This tells me that they may be holding a creature to block my creature, but that is also like totally fine if they do this. If they just play a creature to block Ragavan, I'm fine with it. I'm getting in with the Kavu, doing ability, removing creatures from their graveyard, making their living end much worse. And I connect here with both. So now I had some options, but I had multiple options, but I decided to jam the ring, and I still get to hold the denial. This is very strong situation for me. I'm on 17 at the moment. I have protection from the One Ring. I am drawing a bunch of cards, and even if my opponent resolves the living end, it's still not a great situation for them. Okay, so drawing more cards with the ring. I still have that Stubborn Denial backup. I go with both, expecting for my opponents to block the Kavu probably, and try to go for the living end. And I get there a grief, so I decide to cast it. My opponent has another subtlety here, so they can decide what they do with grief because it's actually their spell. Still, yeah, this was foolish, fetching here immediately, but I wasn't really in a big danger of anything, so didn't really care about that. But I got a chance for the opponent here, so they can play the Foundation Breaker, take my treasure, attack for 3, and then cast the Cascade spell, resolve the living end. But as I said, it's really not a big deal. It's just 2 small creatures from the graveyard for the opponent, so it seems like totally fine. I lose 2 more from the ring here, but I can play the Kavu, I can play the Scion, still get to hold Stubborn Denial if I want, but I decide to go for another route, just play another ring, get protection for 1 turn, play Halfling, and this means next turn I have uncounterable 1 ring again, plus a creature, plus a Stubborn Denial. That feels like unlosable situation for me. So I just do my thing, I use the 1 ring again. Also finding the Sheoldred was even more helpful. Make it even easier for me. I played the Scion of Draco and hold the bolt for their turn. 2 damage from Sheoldred, 3 for bolt, and yeah, that is game over. I gain more life with the Sheoldred, drawing more cards. Now I have 2 lightning bolts for the lethal, and that is easy win against a living end. And we are going to quickly see the loss against Amulet. I say quickly because it was actually woke up 3 or 4 a.m. Yeah, it was 4 a.m. I woke up early, I was not able to sleep, and I was already 3-0 with this list. So I went like, okay, let's try to get a trophy here. And of course I immediately get paired against Amulet player, very experienced Amulet player. I knew that's what he was playing, I knew he was an Amulet, so it wasn't really a good decision to keep this hand. I decided to risk it. I was trying to, hoping to drawing a card, drawing another land here, getting their 1 mana spell with denial, but that didn't happen. I didn't draw into 3rd land, so that was a quick concede. Let's check out the game 2. Game 2, I was actually very close to win. Opponent had a big luck. Okay, so my sideboarding plan was 3 on Sheoldred a bit, 3 on Bolt, remove all the Teferis, and that's it. So bring in Get Lost, Tear Sunders, Boseiju, and yeah, that's about it. Okay, so I was able to play the binding here, take their amulet, a good start. Then I have a get lost. Unfortunately, if I had blue land here instead of Temple Garden, I would definitely win this game. I would be able to gem the Scion of Draco turn before, but I got the blue land turn after, and that ended up being not good enough. So I was able to kill their second Saga, which was pretty cool, and gem the Scion of Draco, so finally able to start attacking for 5, and this is pretty strong clock. At this point I thought like this is for sure game over. My opponent was already on 11, and with the Sheoldred and Scion on the field, this is like pretty close to game over. So I needed a removal spell here to end the game immediately, but instead I got Scion of Draco, which was fine. Like 2 Scions and Sheoldred and the Halfling seemed like impossible to lose right now, but here opponent got things going. Bounce land plus Valakut, and they were able to play a second Summoner Pact, get the Grazer to get 2 more abilities from the Valakut to kill second Scion and be able to block my Scion of Draco. So they survive on 1, and still I needed a top deck in this situation to win, but I top deck nothing, just a land. And my opponent pays 2 Summoner Pacts in their upkeep and get amulet on the field. That was amazing top deck for them actually right now. So now they were able, thanks to the Dryad plus Azusa, they were able to play this Gruul turf like 4 times, do a bunch of damage with Valakut, and also play the Cultivator Colossus on the same turn to get a lot more abilities. Valakut, it was overkill at this point, and yeah, enough damage to win the game. And the funny thing is, I had a Sheoldred on top of my library. I had Sheoldred on top, so for the win. So no luck for me in this one. So that was it. Okay, so keeping a bad hand in game 1. Even though I actually knew what I was playing against, and then opponent having a bunch of luck in game 2, preventing me from going 5-0 in this one. But I also didn't really focus on Titan with my sideboard. I probably should have included another card for the matchup. Titan is kind of popular at the moment, so kind of I think definitely my fault. But that's it. Okay, so I think this deck is pretty interesting at the moment. As I said, I've been doing really well with the decks that can efficiently gem the One Ring and play really effective win conditions, and these 2 mana guys are really effective win conditions. And when you have the One Ring on the field, you can gem multiple of these creatures per turn while holding like meaningful cheap interaction. We have Bolt, we have Denial, we have Binding, Teferi, and this all makes this deck pretty powerful and a fun option at the moment. So if you like to play the One Ring and the Sheoldred and want something different, I think this is very nice, fun option for you, and I can really guarantee you will do well with a list like this. Gemming cheap, strong creatures with a lot of card advantage and cheap interaction. I think that's a good place to be right now. And that's it for today. Thank you for watching. A friendly reminder to click like, click subscribe, Tell me what are your thoughts about this list in comparison to the old Zoo Beans list from the Beans era. I think the philosophy is similar, so but instead of jamming more 5 mana cards, we are going for the Halfling here to help us play the One Ring, Sheoldred, Teferi sooner. But the philosophy is kind of similar, having the good stuff Zoo cards paired together with powerful draw engines. That is it. Okay, so again, thank you for watching. That's all for today, and goodbye.